Illegal immigration. I think we're allowed to say that now, or maybe not. I know for sure that you cannot say illegal alien. I'm not even sure about the word illegal. That might be next on the chopping block. The Biden administration, because they're not doing so good with other policies that might stop the constant surge of illegal migrants from coming across the border, well, they're going to focus on some other policies that maybe they can cause some change in that might lead to something happening in America regarding immigration. I don't really know what they're doing. Let's see if we can piece it together. But we do know clearly that the term alien, illegal alien, undocumented alien, can't say that anymore. That's a bad word. No. Biden forbids immigration judges from using the term alien. Posted July 27th by Joseph Simonson over at the Free Beacon, says that federal immigration judges may no longer use the word alien in their legal opinions, according to the Department of Justice directive. So not exactly like pronouns per se, but pretty close. Can't use that to define it. Okay, so we're it's kind of a pronoun conversation. We're all familiar with that framework. Citing an immigration order from Joe Biden, senior DOJ official, her name is Jean King, we're going to read through her memo, says that we should be using different words rather than undocumented alien, rather than illegal alien. And we're going to see what she has to say. Now, it's important to note that currently we have this word littered throughout our law, right? It's all over the place in our official statutes and government documents. The Immigration and Nationality Act describes, quote, alien as, quote, any person not a citizen or a national of the United States. A variety of federal laws and regulations use the term alien to describe individuals who can be removed from the United States, in contrast to mere nationals who also may be citizens or residents, such as in territories like the American Samoa. So it's all over our law, but we now have some guidance from the Biden team saying that you can't use that word. Who wrote the memo? This is Jean King. She was appointed acting director of the Executive Office for Immigration Review, January 21, soon as Biden took in. Got a lot of background working in immigration appeals and general counsel for this organization. And so she's a lawyer and, passed the bar and all that stuff. She writes this memo. She says specifically, to everybody who's a part of this organization, I am Jean King, and this is a memo about terminology, effective July 26, 2021. She says that she's got authority under the Code of Federal Regulations, and the purpose of this memo is to clarify the agency's use of terminology about non-citizens. So she goes through, she says, listen, Biden's Executive Order 14012, called Restoring Faith in Our Legal Immigration Systems, says that the federal government should develop welcoming strategies that promote integration and inclusion. Unity. Joe Biden talked a lot about that. Unity. It's beautiful. That executive order created a comprehensive framework to address this. Accordingly, we now say that we are not to use the terms alien and illegal alien to describe migrants, to address these causes. Some opinions of the Supreme Court use the term non-citizens in place of alien. They give us some examples of that. The policy memorandum clarifies proper terminology to use at the Executive Office for Immigration Review. Here's what she says. The term listed as current will be used for EOIR decisions and for both internal and external communications. The only exception to the change in terminology is when quoting a statute, regulation, legal opinion, court order, or settlement agreement. So previous was the word alien, but now current is going to be used in its place. So they're going to call them respondents, applicants, petitioner, beneficiary, migrant, non-citizen, or non-U.S. citizens versus alien. Same thing. Rather than undocumented alien or illegal alien, they're going to be calling them undocumented non-citizens, undocumented non-U.S. citizens. So in all decisions, and internal and current. Only exception is when quoting a statute, a regulation, or a legal opinion. So in other words, if you're going to be talking about this, about the statutes, like if you're going to be talking about the actual law as it's written, statutes, regulation, legal opinions, it's okay if you use the legal term. But if you're not, then you got to use the woke terminology or whatever that is, right? The welcoming, loving, come on in language, because that's Important. The PM provides internal direction to EOIR staff, does not create any legal right or anything like that. If you have questions, contact your supervisor. Don't ask me about it. Okay, so we're going to change some language here, and it's now, I guess, illegal or something to use the word alien, which I don't appreciate. So for the rest of the show, the only way we're going to refer to our next story is using the term alien. That's all I can do. If they tell me I can't say something or do something, well, we're going to do the opposite of that. That's the official policy of this show moving forward for the rest of at least today until I get bored with it. So let's talk about a massive problem with illegal aliens now in South Texas. This story came over from CBS 11 in Dallas, Fort Worth. They say that the department issues a public health announcement after COVID-stricken illegal aliens are seen coughing and sneezing at Whataburger. The La Joya Police Department issued a public health announcement after an officer approached an illegal alien family at Whataburger who told them that the Border Patrol released them. They had COVID-19, right? We've got some clips from this. So this is a very interesting case here. Well, let's go back into the story. I jumped the gun. On July 26, the police department of the small town along the Rio Grande and the Mexican border shared details of the incident. They said a concerned citizen at a restaurant waved down the officer. Citizen told him about a family coughing and sneezing without covering their mouths and not wearing face masks, which is basically a capital offense these days. Whataburger management also told the officer that they wanted the group to leave as well due to their disregard to other people's health. Okay, so this might sound like not that big of a deal. It's a sick family. They're in a Whataburger. Somebody comes and flags down the police and says, hey, look, there's a seriously sick family in here. We need some support. Whataburger says like they're disregarding other people's health now. That's how sick these people are. And so let's listen in. There was a press conference that was written here by the La Joya Police Department. There's a press conference. And so it was along about 50 minutes. I have a couple clips here, and I raised the audio. They were live streaming this from a cell phone, as you can see, and the audio is pretty bad. So I increased the volume of the audio dramatically, and then I added a reverb and a denoiser in there. So the audio is going to sound weird, but you should be able to make it out. This is during a press release, and so we've got two clips from him. First one is he's going to tell us a little bit about what happened. Then we're going to actually take a look at the formal post that he that they posted over on Facebook. And then we're going to see sort of what he knew about this and how the federal government was involved in this situation. Let's see what's going on here. This is from the La Joya Police Department in Texas.
On July 26th, during the early afternoon hours, one of our officers was on patrol on Expressway 83 near a restaurant and was weighed down. The officer stopped to make contact with the individual and was advised that there were some people in the restaurant that appeared to be very sick. The officer did not at that point know the extent of what she meant by them being sick, so she made contact and walked into the restaurant and made contact and found a family there. A lady with her teenage daughters, and I believe some toddlers were there also. According to the officer, everybody that was in there, as part of that group of the family, appeared to be ill. She didn't know exactly what they had, but they did appear to have runny nose. They were sneezing, they were coughing. The children had like mucus on their face and different things that alerted the officer that something was wrong. So the officer made contact with the manager, and the manager made a decision that it was better that that family would leave because it was making everybody else uneasy.
All right, so sick, right? They were sick. It's a sick family, and listen. I have a tremendous amount of empathy for these families, for these children, for these people who are coming across the border. They want a better life in this country, and I can support that to the end of the earth, right? There are a lot of Americans who don't even appreciate being here, and they're just fighting to, trekking themselves across 100 million degrees out here in Arizona to try to get a little piece of safety, liberty, freedom, and, some financial security and all of that stuff. So we're not going to be bad-mouthing the families or the people, the actual migrants. But this is a problem for the Biden administration because they keep creating incentives that cause people to want to come here because their policies are so backwards. Now, what's happening here is doubly problematic because they're basically allowing very, very sick people to come across the border without any health precautions taking place, and they are specifically moving them around in different parts of the country. So I want to show you, this is the actual report that they posted on their Facebook page. La Joya Police Department, they say, listen, this is a public health announcement. They feel like they have to issue this for their community. Officer was waved down at Whataburger. Citizen explained, observed a family group. They were not following health guidelines. Family was coughing, sneezing without covering their mouths. Officer was told by management they wanted them to leave due to their disregard for other people's health. Officer approached the family, told them that the family told them that they had been apprehended by Border Patrol days prior and they were released because they were sick with COVID-19. This is what the family is telling the police. Family says, listen, yeah, I know we're at Whataburger. How did we get here? I don't know. Border Patrol picked us up. They were sick. So they just said, well, you're on your own. They were released. La Joya Police Department also learned the family was housed at a Texas Inn hotel located here, placed there by a charity group. Officers made contact with hotel management. They explained Catholic Charities of the Rio Grande Valley booked all the rooms in the hotel to house undocumented immigrants that were detained by Border Patrol. Okay, so now Border Patrol, because they're not going to house them, they are taking these illegal aliens and now sending them over to this Catholic charity, which then will put them up in this hotel. And the Border Patrol they're out of our hands now. So the family, sick as hell with COVID, they show up at a Whataburger, and the Border Patrol's just gone with the wind. Officers observed that a group of 20 to 30 people staying at a hotel were out, about the majority without face masks. Also learned that people being detained by Border Patrol that showed symptoms of illness or were positive were being quarantined by the agency, and then later they were given custody to Catholic Charities and placed in hotels in the McClellan area. Upon receiving this information, officers contacted Health and Human Services. Officers were told that the agency would look into the matter. We want to inform the public about the current situation. We ask the citizens of La Joya to exercise social distancing and put your masks on. La Joya police have been assisting Border Patrol in the apprehension of hundreds of people crossing through the jurisdiction. They do not show any signs of slowing down. Surpassed 1 million apprehensions. We also want to add that Catholic Charities did not inform La Joya Police Department that people had symptoms or that they were placed in hotels. Please exercise caution. Here is the police department now saying that. We didn't even know this was going on right in our own city. Here they are.
We have an understanding based on what was told to us that the hotel in totality has already been rented out, and everybody that lives there or is staying there temporarily has these forms to be there. And from there, they're allowed to move to their destination.
Wherever
that destination may be at. It could
What?
be anywhere in our nation. But for now, they're staying in our city.
Did you hear that?
We did not know this. No one told the city of La Joya. No one told the police department
What?
that these people were here. And no one told us that these people were possibly ill. They themselves said it to the police department or the police officers that they were sick and that they were there.
nobody told us, nobody told the city of La Jolla, nobody told the police department of La Jolla that this was happening. You've got the Border Patrol being run by the Biden administration that are flipping out over the word alien, now making some serious policy changes, saying, oh, well, we're just going to round up people if they're sick. We're going to attempt to quarantine them, but then they actually don't really quarantine. They hole them up in a hotel that is being rented out by a Catholic charity, and the Catholic charity doesn't have the resources to sort of keep people, housed up or locked down in quarantine. Families just pick up, go over to Whataburger, right? Get something to eat. And so now the whole community is sort of on high alert. Hey, we've got, a huge group of people that apparently have COVID, and the Border Patrol is just sort of letting them go, and they're free to travel about the country to their final destination. Nobody's even keeping track of them. And he's saying, and a million, about a million total apprehensions, and it's not slowing down. So thank you, Biden administration, for that, making it very difficult for even local police departments to be able to protect their own communities, of course. So Texas is responding. Hidalgo County Commissioner's Court, this guy, Richard F. Cortez, put this press release out, said Hidalgo County judge calls on the federal government to stop releasing infected migrants and calls on the state to return the tools to contain the spread of COVID-19. So he used the word migrant, which, is now proper. Illegal alien is the preferred term on the show here. Edinburgh, faced with multiple reports that illegal aliens are being released, Cortez is calling on federal immigration officials to stop releasing illegal aliens into our communities. Calls on Texas Governor Greg Abbott to restore safety measures. We've been doing well as a community in slowing this deadly spread, but ill-conceived policies by both federal and state governments are having serious consequences. Cortez made the call after multiple reports of a number of migrants being processed and released into local nonprofit agencies, assisting them. They're now overwhelming these agencies. Cortez is also learning of multiple reports of migrants infected with COVID-19 interacting in public as they cough and sneeze without observing safety protocols. We now face a potential crisis because federal policy of releasing infected illegal aliens in our community stop us from implementing safety measures. This is unacceptable. Governor Abbott came out in Texas today, issued a new executive order. We can see this here. July 28th, he says he issued an executive order restricting ground transportation of migrants who pose risk of carrying COVID-19 into Texas. Asked the Department of Public Safety to stop any vehicle upon reasonable suspicion of such a violation and route the vehicles back to its point of origin. DPS also has the authority to impound a vehicle that violates the order. What if those vehicles are Border Patrol vans that are just opening up their doors and saying, come on in, illegal aliens, come on in here. We're going to take you wherever you need to go. Governor Abbott says that the dramatic rise in unlawful border crossings has also led to a dramatic rise in COVID. This executive order will reduce the spread of COVID. And if you dive into the order itself, here's what it says. No person other than a federal, state, or local law enforcement official shall provide ground transportation to a group of migrants. So yes, Border Patrol can still van the illegal aliens wherever they want in the country. No problem at all. They just can't use the local charities to do that. So they're going to be trying to, they can't override the feds, but they can manage these Catholic charities and some of these other nonprofits. Texas DPS is directed to stop any vehicle with reasonable suspicion, send that back to a port of entry. Also authorized to impound the vehicle if it is transporting illegal aliens. So that is where some of the teeth are in that particular executive order. All right, so let's take some questions over from watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We'll see what is coming in on this one. We have Sergeant Bob says it's like putting lipstick on a pig. Isn't it? Isn't it nice? Putting lipstick on a pig. I remember when they said that about Sarah Palin. But I good to see you, Sergeant Bob. Glad to see you. Glad you're here. It's Ed is here. It's Ed says, yay, Rob. Alien, 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 right? There it is. Just get it out. If they tell you can't say it, well, kind of want to say it, don't you? And it's law. It's in our statutes. It's in our regulations all over the place. So it's not even offensive. It's just a legal way to categorize something. All right. Sergeant Bob says, once again, the local cops have to try to clean up another mess another agency created. It goes on and on. That's from Sergeant Bob. And I feel for those officers. You know, it's like you're in a city and suddenly you've got the feds that are just like, importing problems for you. And you're saying, would have been good a little notice. Can you send us a text that this is happening? And you saw that other officer on there, Sergeant Bob. He was shaking his head, right? The officer was talking and said, no, they're just free to go anywhere in the nation, anywhere they want to go. And that other officer's going, oh my God, this is insane. This is crazy. And those guys didn't look like white supremacists to me either. But maybe they are, that multiracial white supremacy that we hear so much about. Jeremy Matrita says, Rob, do you think changing the terminology will affect the statutes? No, even though they added the exception to using banned words when referring to statutes, I imagine that will be next on the chopping block. Imagine lawyers would benefit from taking a course in creative writing to better avoid using certain words when dealing with legal matters. Yeah, it's really sort of hard to just go in and change legal statutes and legal words like that because so much thought goes into them. And I mean, like, an obnoxious amount of thought, goes into the structure of sentences and what word choice was used and, how the word choice differs from the debate that took place during the legislative session that they had. I mean, there are judges that read through transcripts and say, well, they wrote the word alien, but they never used it when they were debating the bill. So now what do we do with this? And then the other thing with case law is that it's all precedent, right? So they sort of are stacking things one on top of the other. They're building upon itself. So it'd be like building a house. You sort of add a room in and you say, well, we need this room because it fills in this part of the house and it's necessary. And so we're going to build on that. And same thing with the word alien, right? They're building all of this case law on top of that word. What does it mean? Who does it apply to? Where is it used? Where can it not be used? A lot of explanation goes around that word. And so if they just say, well, we're just going to change it to migrant, well, that has a lot of serious ripple effects. So you can see why they're doing it this way rather than just going through and actually correcting the statutes. They're just going to say, well, just in practice, we're just going to call it something different, which is, I think, very in sync with the rest of how the country is working right now. We have Nadarb says, follow real Anthony Aguero on YouTube for real deep live footage on the border almost every night. Things he catches on camera is insane. That's real Anthony Aguero on YouTube. Shout out to real Anthony Aguero. I'm not familiar with him. I'm going to have to follow him. Interesting. Sounds very interesting. Thunder7 says, Rob, how about we call them unauthorized person in America, or UPA for short? A rose by another name is still a rose. Can we rename the Democratic Party the Lunatic Fringe Party? As they're all crazy. We've got real problems and they waste time on this nonsense. Yeah, there are other more meaningful policies that they could be changing, like, stopping the incentive to come across the border because you'll be let in immediately would be a good one. Three Girlies is here, says, what authority does Biden have to do the EO to change the term, legal or otherwise? Wouldn't changing the term alien need to come from Congress? It would seem to me that if they want the term alien taken out of the laws, they have to start with Congress to change the verbiage in the laws. You're dead right, Three Girlies. You're exactly right. So what they're talking about is sort of the executive implementation of the laws, right? Remember, the legislature writes the laws, the courts say what the law is, and the executive implements and enforces the law. And so all this it's an EO saying that when we are enforcing the law, the statutes that were dictated and written into code by Congress, we're just going to be interpreting them a little bit differently. Or not even interpreting them differently, because that might go too far, right? Because the executive still has to enforce the law as it's written. And if the court has a problem with that, they can come in and sort of rectify that. But we're not talking about, actually changing the meaning. We're sort of changing the implementation of it. So it's like, I'm going to get my car washed regularly. I'm going to get a car washed at this location versus this location. It's functionally the same. It's just a little bit different implementation. This guy does a hand wash. This guy does a machine wash. And so, as an executive, I'm still getting cars washed. It's just about how it's being washed or implemented. And so as long as this is not really changing what the underlying statutes mandate that have to happen legally, it's just sort of a stylistic change is really all it is, which is why it's not meaningful and why it's more, woke virtue signaling, watering down of the language. We have Sergeant Bob says, Kamala, get your ass down there and fix it. Kamala cookies not needed. That's from Sergeant Bob. Yeah, look, I don't know why this problem hasn't been fixed already. She went down there to Guatemala and to Mexico, and she's swagging her finger at everybody over there. Do not come over here. And they're still coming. they didn't listen to the Queen Kamala over there, and they're still, I guess, just not buying it. We have Want to Know says there is no southern migration problem at all. It is flowing with COVID quite well. And according to Psaki and Kamala, there is no problem. There's no crisis. We all need to realize that they know best. You're right. You're right, Want to Know. You're right. I forget sometimes. Not for you or for me, them. At least all the people are coming down knowing socialism doesn't work. They're all coming to the neighborhood near you. Isn't the border shut down because of COVID? No. I mean, officially, you can't travel. There are all sorts of travel restrictions on Americans, but not illegal aliens. I'm sorry, migrants, not the migrants. They're allowed to come over here, no problem. We have TOS Forever says, might this topic and the previous topic be about mob rulers preparing to have these children and non-citizens as voters next year elections so as to keep tyranny and Congress in mob rule? I do think there's a lot of demographic arguments for immigration. And I think actually, to be candid about this, I think that both parties benefit from continued illegal immigration. Everybody's okay with it, which is why we don't see anything ever done about it. That's when you know it's a real problem for the regular everyday American. With both parties are in cahoots to push something a certain direction, that means everybody else is getting screwed. TOS Forever says, oh, already got that one. Good to see you, TOS. Let's see what else we've got. We got Miss Lucky says, hi, Robert. I am an alien trying to apply for residence in the U.S. Am I still good? Yes, you're good. The term alien is not offensive, in my opinion. It's just a legal term. You're an alien trying to apply for residence in the U.S. You're still good. You're good to go, I think. I'm not an immigration attorney, but I think you're perfectly clear. You're good to go. And it sounds like you're actually applying for residence, which is a nice thing. That's well appreciated here. And we're grateful for the application, and we're grateful to hopefully have you on board here. We want amazing people in this country. We just want them to come legally, don't we? We have Osak says, Rob, we should roll up all non-citizens and send them to the Capitol. I'm sure Congress would have an issue with that. Maybe let them move into their house or their neighborhoods. It's a good point, Osak. Maybe they can go to their Whataburgers, see how Nancy Pelosi likes it. Sweet Potato is here, says, is requiring the vaccine before FDA approval a violation of the Nuremberg Code? If you can't talk about it on YouTube, can you follow up with the spicy meatballs on Locals? Please, please, please. So is requiring the vaccine before FDA approval a violation of the Nuremberg Code? So I can't speak to the Nuremberg Code, but we talked about this yesterday, Sweet Potato. And, it might be a violation of the Nuremberg Code, but I'm not sure that our U.S. government cares about that at all, because we know that the Office of Legal Counsel on yesterday's show, we talked about this. We went through the memorandum a little bit and showed specifically that they are now allowing even experimental EUA, emergency use authorization vaccines, to be mandated by both official government entities and private entities. The government's lawyer, the federal government's lawyer, said it's okay. No problem doing that. So you're welcome to go ahead and mandate whatever you want. Now, when I was reading through that opinion, don't think I saw anything in there about the Nuremberg Code. So I would guess that what they're saying is that it's clearly not a violation of the Nuremberg Code, because, of course, our U.S. government would sort of adhere to something like that, wouldn't they? Good question, Sweet Potato. We have It's Ed says, Dems now have the power to change immigration law, yet they haven't introduced any bills to do so. I suspect they are waiting until Republicans take over Congress. Then they're going to try to introduce bills for immigration reform and complain about Republicans blocking it. I think that's a very, very astute observation. They don't want immigration reform. They want to stay in power and maintain the problem so that they can capitalize on it. That's from It's Ed. Yeah, and it's immigration has always been this sort of like political football that just sort of gets kicked back around both sides, just kind of, it's one party's problem, and then we're not in charge anymore. So now it's your problem again. We're not in charge. Now, it's back to your problem again. And both parties, I think, are perfectly fine with it. I think that the Democrats want the voters. The Republicans want the cheap labor. Unfortunately, we have an entire demographic of amazing people who are being exploited by both political parties, that are being encouraged and incentivized to drag their kids across the desert in search of a better life. And when they get here, they're being, shoved in hotels and sick with COVID and crammed in Whataburgers. And we see them, laying in flatbeds, being hauled across the border, subjecting themselves to, rape, assault, death on the journey here, all because our own government created those incentives. The current government did that. And so, they have to live with that. They do all this stuff in the name of humanity, but they're actually, it's resulting in inhumane situations. It's very, very sad. Realtor Patty says, when I went home to McClellan, Texas 2 weeks ago, we went across the border to Mexico. Oh, you did? Well, then you would have been a Mexican alien, I guess. Well, I'm glad you're back there, Realtor Patty. Thanks for sharing that. I hope you had a nice trip, safe trip. It's a beautiful country. I love Mexico. We have Go Navy 505 says, remember everything a weird guy with a funny mustache did in 1930s and 40s? Germany did was legal. Yeah, because the government endorsed it, right? The government just kind of does what it does, and they say it's okay, and most people just say, oh, I guess so. Guess you're right. Great questions, all of those from watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Thank you for sending those over here. Thanks so much for watching. Before you head out, I want to just remind you that I am a criminal defense lawyer here in Scottsdale, Arizona, where my team and I, we've got a long history of helping good people facing criminal charges to find safety, clarity, and hope in their cases and beyond that in their lives. Our phone number for a free case evaluation is 480-787-0394. You can also find us online at www.rrlawaz.com. We can help with any type of criminal charge in the state of Arizona, things like DUI, drug offenses, misdemeanor offenses. And we can also help with clearing up old case records, like expunging cases or making sure that you can restore your rights so that you can vote again or possess a firearm again or apply for some other federal benefits. We can remove mugshots off the internet. Basically, anytime that you or somebody you know or love is in trouble with the law in the state of Arizona, we have an amazing team of people. We would just love the opportunity to help. And our phone number, of course, 480-787-0394. And if you don't need any legal services, that's a very good thing, but you may be interested in some informational offerings so that you are prepared if you do have to deal with the police. And of course, I want to invite you to head on over to gumroad.com/Robert Gruler. You'll notice here, I've got several different trainings that are available, including the law enforcement interaction training. This is the 1, 2, 3 rule for dealing with the police. It's one rule you need, 2 questions that the police can ask of you, and 3 responses if they ask you a problematic question. So that's available now. You can also get a load at my personal productivity system here called Existence Systems. Fun little course. And then we have here, if you're a lawyer or a legal professional, be sure to check out this program. We are meeting twice every month. Again, all of this over at gumroad.com/Robert Gruler. And if none of that sounds any good to you, well, just go ahead and give us a follow, because I'm working on some other products and some other offerings. And of course, if you have not already done so, want to invite you one more time to head on over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. It's where you can support the show, and it's where we can connect. We've got monthly Zoom meetings and a lot of other goodies coming up. So I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you so much for watching, and for all of your love and support. I will see you on the next one.